Equity Trust Company is a passive custodian and does not provide tax, legal, or investment advice. Any information communicated by Equity is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice. Whenever making an investment decision, please consult with your tax attorney or financial professional. Equity does not endorse any speaker or presenter before you today. The opinions or ideas expressed are not necessarily those of Equity Trust Company, nor do they reflect their views or endorsement. These materials are for informational purposes only. Furthermore, all case studies provided are for educational purposes only. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. Because of the technical nature of the material and the fact that the laws and the markets are ever changing, we strongly recommend that you engage the assistance of a competent, qualified professional before implementing any ideas discussed today. Thank you.
So I think we got a great session for you guys here. I'm going to do a quick introduction of our speaker, and then I'm going to get out of your way so you can get some good content. So for this session, we have Mr. Jeff Watson. Jeff is an attorney here in the state of Ohio. He's been practicing for 27 years. He deals a lot with real estate investing, wealth building, asset protection. I've had the privilege of seeing him interact with folks at different events, and he's got a really unique perspective on things. One of the things I appreciate about him is his perspective and his way to make things sound very simple, which are typically pretty complex things. Jeff can actually make them sound simple. So he has helped change laws. He himself is an investor, an author, a blogger, and probably many other things. So I give you guys Jeff Watson. Let's give him a hand.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Folks, I'm thrilled you're here. Thrilled you're here. I'm going to share with you some of the best stuff that I think I've got, and I want to begin by saying thank you. And I'm going to move around a little bit, but not too much because my knee won't let me, so don't worry about me wandering all over the place, okay? We're good over there. Great. Love the sound crew. Equity Trust doing a fantastic job. And folks, thank you for being here. And there's a number of you I want to tell you right now, thank you for understanding that I didn't want to do questions before I spoke because I'm really dialed into what I want to do now. When I get done with this presentation, we'll do questions until they make me get out of here. So thank you, and we'll go from there. Now, the presentation I'm going to give you is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information with regard to the subject matter being covered. It is provided with the understanding that the presenter is not engaged in rendering legal, accounting, or other professional advice. If legal advice or other expert professional assistance is required, the services of a competent professional person should be sought. Two other disclaimers. Number one, I am not here advocating any particular or unique investment. I'm not here to pitch, sell, advertise, or promote anything. I'm here to share information and content with you. The second thing I'm going to tell you is that the material you're getting here today, the video, the audio, the whole presentation together, is owned and protected by both Equity Trust Company and the Jeffrey S. Watson Law Firm, and you are not allowed to redistribute, rebroadcast, or otherwise use it for your own commercial gain in any way without the express written consent of both Equity Trust Company and the Jeffrey S. Watson Law Firm. So, got all that covered, right? Let's talk about the 4 R's of self-directed IRA investing. And I try to get stuff down to where I can understand it, where I can get my kids to understand it. That's how I play this game, is can I get my kids to understand it? So I use a phrase called rinse, repeat. How many of you have heard the phrase rinse and repeat? Yeah. Okay, good. How many of you have ever been driving down the road and seen a squirrel in the middle of the road? And that squirrel could not figure out right, left, stop, stay, and what happened? Boom, boom. Life happened to the squirrel. You know what? I see so many real estate investors that suffer from what I call squirrel disease. They got an advanced case of squirrelitis. They did really good on a deal, so they're going to go do something different. Oh, I was really good on those tax liens. Man, I crushed it with that rehab, so I'm going to go do mobile homes. Okay, waffle. Anyhow, so I like to get the other R's in here that are reinvest and reload. If you saw what I do inside of my self-directed retirement account, you would start to go yawning. It is so boring because it's the same thing over and over again. And let me share with you a couple of things that I do that are so boring, okay? But I got to give you the basis for why I do this. This is my Roth theorem. And the aerospace engineer buddy, Stan Brady, looked at me when that word came out and he's like, yeah, right. You don't have an engineering bone anywhere near your body. But anyhow, so Roth theorem, there it is. Clear as mud, right? So let's walk through this. If you want to copy this down, I'm fine with this, okay? But this is my stuff, just remember that. So, Roth money. RS is Roth money. The precious seed that John was talking about, the precious seed that Jeff Desich was talking about, the Roth money in the IRA. Times applied with focus intensity. Focused, intense action. You will grow your account. I will grow my account. It's a burned into your brain mantra that you're thinking about every time you're looking at a deal. Is, how can I get my Roth to do this? And then that results in an enhanced rate of return, rate of interest. Time, taking an enhanced rate of return, a rate of interest, and taking it over time, we end up with something called tax-free wealth, okay? Which is reported right on the middle of your 1040 tax return, page 1, and does not make it into the column on the right-hand side of the page. So, we're going to talk about 10 for 12. Why am I going to talk about 10 for 12? I know y'all are an advanced group, right? Y'all are an advanced group. How many of you have done 5 or more SDRA deals this year? This year, 5 or more. Okay, all right. I got to tell you, I'm behind. I had a goal of wanting to do 1 deal a week this year, and I'm a little bit behind, okay? I probably have been doing about 2 deals, 3 deals a month, not quite hitting 4 a month, okay? I'm trying. Give me another year, I'll get there, okay? So let's talk about some of the deals I like doing. But to do that, I got to set the stage. How many of you know a landlord? Come on, let's get those hands way up. You know a landlord, okay? How many of you know a lot of landlords? You are my favorite audience. I love this. You will love what I'm going to share with you. How many of you know that on occasion, a good landlord could occasionally use a good-sized chunk of cash? Anybody else ever own a rental property and have an inspector come through for part of either an Eden program or Section 8 or whatever, and next thing you know, you're looking at a repair bill that's like $6,000, $8,000? Anybody ever have that happen to them? Or is that just me? Okay. Anybody ever have like a sudden emergency, cracked heat exchanger, and all of a sudden your reserve's a little low and you need to get something in there? So okay, so now you're feeling me. All right, so the landlord's got a pretty good deal. We're in a Midwest area, so we'll just use these numbers. These numbers are Midwestern, they're not bi-coastal. Landlord receives $800 a month in rent from a good unit with a decent tenant. Everybody kind of familiar with that idea? Decent tenant, good unit, $800 a month. Boom, 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 boom. However, now this landlord needs some money. He needs $8,000 in cash. Now, like yesterday. Anybody see an opportunity for an IRA deal here? Let me show you how to structure this one, or how I would do it. How I'd walk you through this one. We're going to offer the landlord $8 grand out of my self-directed retirement account at Equity Trust Company in exchange for 12 very reasonable payments of $800 a month. I'll give you $8 grand now, and you pay me back $800 a month for the next 12 months. Gets you through this crisis you've got, Fred. I give you 8 grand right out of my IRA, bang, we can get this paperwork done right off the bat. You're going to get 8 grand. You're just going to give me back $800 a month for 12 payments. And then we're done. All good, right? Sounds fair, right? Okay. So you're going to document that deal. You got to document this deal a couple of ways. You got to have a good commercial promissory note with a personal guarantee. Because Fred's probably got the properties inside of a trust or inside of an LLC, so we're going to want him to sign a commercial promissory note, and we're going to want Fred to personally guarantee the note. Okay? We're going to want an assignment of rents. We're going to want Fred to sign a specific piece of paper that says in the event that Fred fails to make the payments, my IRA's representative has the right to inform the tenant that the rent payments now need to come to the IRA. That's what an assignment of rents is. And then we're going to go ahead and probably get a mortgage or a deed of trust, and we're going to get that recorded against the property. Okay, so we're going to have that paperwork lined up, and we're going to then send it all in with my direction of investment form, upload it, send it in. Equity Trust is going to process it. $8,000 check's going to go to Fred. Fred's going to cash the check, and then we're going to start collecting our payments. Everybody good with that? See that simple concept? Okay, so a loan of $8,000 receives back over 1 year's time $9,600. Anybody want to calculate that rate of return? 20%. Well, that's what Fred thinks he's paying. But run that in a financial calculator, and you'll find it's not 20%. It's a little better than that. So we'll get to that. If you haven't run it, you should. I don't have either of my financial calculators that are with me in this room. Neither one of them are on my person. Yes, I do not leave home without one. Does that make me a nerd? I think so. That's all right. So let's just talk about now the snowball effect, because here's where I'm going to wander around just a little bit, but not far, because the brace has got to help hold me up here. I run into this so often, and I bet you do too. Individuals that come to me and they go, Jeff, I've only got $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 in my IRA. How can I grow it? How can I do something to where, you know, I'm 50 years old right now, and I'm afraid that when I get to 65 or 67, I won't be able to afford to retire. What can I do? Well, why don't you just have that person listen to what I'm about ready to share with you, okay? So we're going to make an $8,000 loan, and we're going to bring back in $9,600. And while we're collecting those payments, we're also going to make a contribution to my IRA of another $5,500. Now, it does not have to be an IRA. It could be an HSA. By the way, I think HSAs are one of the sexiest things out there. I mean, oh, man, I love HSAs. Okay, so I make $5,500 in contributions to my HSA or my IRA, whatever, whichever account I want. And I've got that loan going out there. So I've got $9,600 that came back in, and I've got another $5,500 in contributions. So I've got $15,000 at the end of that deal, right? So what do I want to do with that $15,000? Thank you. Yes, we're going to rinse and repeat. So what we do is when I hit the button and it works, right? Did the button move? Okay, yeah, it did. So now we got $15,100. We got to go do something with that. Oh, I see what happened. They didn't all load at once. There we go. I'm going to make 2 new loans now on the same 10 for 12 basis. Why? Because I already got the paperwork. It's pretty easy to tweak it around. I can find another landlord, find 2 landlords, whatever. And I'm going to make 2 new loans. I'm going to make a $7,000 loan. And I'm going to make an $8,000 loan. Why? Because I got 15 grand. 7 and 8 is 15, right? Is my son Zach in the room? Okay, I was just going to have him check my math. Okay. So I make a $7,000 loan, brings back $8,400. I make an $8,000 loan, brings back $9,600. And so my snowball has now started to begin to think about turning over. So I've also in that time made another contribution of $6,000. Why? Because now maybe I'm over 50 years old, or maybe I'm using an HSA where my age doesn't matter and I can got a family plan, so I can shove in more than that. So under the different scenarios, I'm now shoving in $6,000, okay, into the IRA, which still has $100 left in it after still making the other 2 loans. So now let's let it run to the end of year 2. Okay? We run out. So then we let this thing run, and we're now up to $24,000. Because we took back in $8,400 off the payment of the $7,000 loan. We took back in $9,600 off the payment of the second $8,000 loan. We've made our $6,000 contribution. We had $100 left over. And so now at the end of year 2, we've got $24,100 sitting in my Roth IRA or HSA account at Equity Trust Company. Christy, do you think this is something that worked for you? I thought so. Because I know you know lots and lots of landlords. Okay? I know you do. So, we got $2,400. So what are we going to do with that $2,400? Rinse and repeat times 3. So, I want to just track to see where we're growing here. Now, if you notice at the end of the first year where we began with $8,000, at the end of the first year we had $15,000. End of the second year we're now up to $24,000. And so now we're going to get after it. So now we're going to go make 3 loans of $8,000. We're only making 1 loan every 4 months, or we're making all 3 loans at the beginning of the year, whatever works, okay? We're making those loans. Remember, we're making them to landlords who are borrowing on a commercial promissory note, so Dodd-Frank doesn't apply. They're personally guaranteeing the note. They're borrowing for business purposes, and they're paying what they think is about 20%, 21% on their money, which is cheaper than most credit cards out there. So everybody's happy, okay? And we're documenting everything with a promissory note, commercial promissory note. We've got a mortgage, or we've got a deed of trust. We've got an assignment of rents, and we're doing good. Remember, we're underwriting these loans. We're making sure that they're good landlords, okay? We're making sure that they're landlords that we know they've got good quality properties, okay? So $8,000, each one of them now brings back in, and when we roll it all together, $28,800. And so we hit it again. Now we take our contribution of another $6,000, plus the money that came in off the 3 loans, and we're now up to almost $35,000, $34,900, okay? And so what are we going to do? We're going to just kind of smile because we see our account balance is starting to grow. Because at the end of year 1, we're at $15,000. At the end of year 2, we're at $24,000. At the end of year 3, we're now up to almost $35,000. You starting to notice how that curve's getting a little steeper? You starting to catch that? You're getting a little more lift-off trajectory? Are we doing anything hard? Is it hard for you to go find a landlord that might need money? Is it? I mean, remember, how many of you know landlords? Boy, not as many hands went up all of a sudden. Why?
So what do you do if you don't know a landlord?
Go find some. You're hanging out in a landlord-rich environment. All right, so let's talk about this. Now we've got what, $34,000, they're almost $35,000. So we're going to deploy $34,000 out of the $34,900 we've got. So we're going to do 2 loans of $8,000, and we're going to do 2 loans of $9,000. So if we're lending out 9, we're taking back $900 a month. If we're lending out 8,000, we're taking back $800 a month. Simple 10 for 12 principle. Seems pretty fair and reasonable, right? I've lent money this way, I've borrowed money this way, okay? So I like this one. So what do we got going on? So you make another contribution. This time you manage to get $6,300 into your IRA, which still, you're making contributions. What you've done, and this is really, really important, is you have said to yourself, it is more important to put money into my IRA every month than to fleece a vehicle from the car dealership. I will drive a lesser vehicle so that I can take $500 a month and put it into my IRA. I will be like the millionaire next door, and I will live beneath my means. I will not live hand to mouth. I will live like a mature adult. I will plan for my retirement. Folks, if you're not making the contributions, you don't have any seed to plant. You will starve to death. Let me go back. How many of you did some literature studying back when they made you actually do it in high school and college? And you remember reading the book Robinson Crusoe? Or did you see the movie? Do you remember? Or maybe you read the Cliff Notes version. Robinson Crusoe, cast away on an island, single man. As part of the shipwreck, he finds a small handful of seeds, wheat. He could have ground it up, turned it into enough flour to maybe make one loaf of bread. He did not. Instead, he planted it. Most of it successfully germinated. He harvested a crop, and he had a lot of wheat. Did he make any bread? No. He replanted it a couple more times, and all of a sudden, he then had more than enough to not only plant, but to feed himself. It's the same concept, all right? And so Equity Trust will let you make contributions every month. In fact, they'll help you do it. Reach right into your checking account, right into your checking account and go whoop. Right when that mortgage comes out, or right when that whatever else comes out, okay? I'll tell you what, I'm riffing, I'm sorry. I love the 401k plan I have at my place. I think my boss, the guy that set it up, is a pretty cool guy. Because he makes sure that it's good for both him and his employees, that he thinks without his employees he'd be screwed. So it's not a solo plan, it's the bigger plan, it's a little more expensive to operate, but I can shove a whole lot more money into that than I can into my Roth IRA. I can shove it right into my Roth 401k, and you know what happens? Is that money disappears sometime between when the button is hit and the paycheck is printed. The money just never made it into the check. I don't know what happened. Next thing I know, it's off in some other fund. You know, like, okay, this is cool, but it happens, okay? All right, so now we're gonna go deploy some money, okay? And so we're gonna get after this. So we made 4 loans. 2 of the loans came back at $8,000 a pop, so they brought back $9,600 each. So that's $19,200. We made 2 $9,000 loans. They brought back a total of $21,600 all total. We made another $6,300 in contributions because we disciplined ourselves to make $500 a month and a little bit more to do that. We got $900 still left in the IRA, and so at the end of 4 years, we've got $48,000 sitting there in tax-free money inside of our Roth IRA. We've got $40,000 that we didn't have there 4 years ago. Pretty cool. And it's not all contributions. But this is now where that snowball is starting to roll. It's just starting to roll. And this is that narrow window of time where you gotta nurture that snowball. And you gotta get it from year 4 to year 7. And don't screw it up. And so you just keep doing rinse, repeat, reinvest, and reload. Rinse, repeat, reinvest, and reload. And you want that snowball to roll for at least a dozen or more years. Now tomorrow, my good friend Eddie Speed is going to show you the power of long-term and looking at notes. And I'm going to tell you that long-term power works when you're either the lender or when you're doing other deals. Okay? So you got to have that with you. So let's talk about this a little bit further. Balance at the end of year 1 was 15 because we made our deal and we got our contributions. Balance at the end of year 2, 24. Balance at the end of year 3, 35. Balance at the end of year 4, 48. You notice how that liftoff rate's still getting steeper and steeper? We're starting to get that hockey stick look. Let's roll on. Let's go do something else here. Are you getting the picture? Okay, so we can do year 5, we can do 6 loans of $8,000 each and another contribution of $6,400. Okay, and at the end of that, we're up to $64,000. Then we're going to go to year 6, and now we're going to do 8 loans of $8,000 each, plus some contributions of $6,200. And at the end of year 6, we're up to $83,000. That's starting to look like a pretty respectable account balance, isn't it? 83 grand is nothing to sneeze at. And we're only at the end of year 6. Boy, if we could run this string out, we'd really have something going on. So here's year 7. We now have to do 10 loans of $8,000 each. But this is cookie cutter stuff. You're using the same templated documents. Yeah, you're going to make sure your lawyer looks at them and you didn't do anything wrong once you filled them all out according to your template. Okay? You're still making your contributions, $500 a month. And so at the end of year 7, you have now hit the 6-figure club inside of your Roth IRA. Not too shabby. Now, some of you would be nerdy enough like me to want to project this thing out for another 7 years. And I'm going to save you that from doing that in this slide presentation. But can you imagine what that would be like in another 7 years? It wouldn't be doubling the 105 either. It'd be a whole lot sweeter than that. Okay? So we getting some ideas there. Good. Now, let's change and shift gears. Everybody take a breath. We're shifting gears. And we're going to talk about a concept that I struggled with for years. It didn't make sense to me. I didn't understand it. I couldn't figure it out. And then one day, I'm sitting in the back of a room on a cruise ship, listening to investors talk, and this angel steps up to the front of the room. Her name now is Dorsey Cooney. At that time, she wasn't married yet, and it was Dorsey Botiford, and her dad is one of my heroes. And Dorsey, just in language that was so ordinary and so common sense, talked about wrap loans, and it's like, I get it. Here's this 25-year-old young lady explaining something to this 50-year-old guy, and he gets it. Like, wow. And not only did I get it, I got it. Do you know what I mean? I didn't just intellectually learn it to say, oh yeah, I've heard that. That's interesting theory. No, I went out and I did it over and over and over again. Why? Because if you're going to do something and get good at it, you keep doing it. Okay? So, let's talk a little bit about these things. But this is how I understood it, and she's graciously knows that I've ripped off her slides, and she's given me permission to do it. And so when she's updated her PowerPoint, I haven't, because I just don't feel like that much from her, stealing that much from her. Okay? She's a dear friend. I'm going to see her next month. Wrap loans. Who are the players? Once you understand who the players are, this thing comes together, and you begin to figure it out. You've got 3 people. You got the property owner / investor that they've got the great screaming deal. They've got a deal, but they're $97,000 light on doing the deal. You remember that from the earlier session? Okay. Then there's you, your IRA account. You're in the middle. You're the seconding person. You know the person who's got the screaming deal, but you don't have $97,000. You got $3 grand. And you know somebody else who's got the 97. So you're able to kind of put the deal together. On behalf of your IRA, you can put the deal together. And so where someone else lends 97, or all these numbers vary, lends 97 and you take your 3 and you wrap your 3 around their 97 and they borrow at an aggregate amount and then they make the payments back, and we'll walk you through the whole thing. But you've got to get the idea. You've got to get the role play here, okay? If I had the time and I had the cash in my wallet, I'd give you an illustration. Now I've done it in the past, but I don't have that today. So we've got the civilian. They've got money, and they want their money working. They want their $97,000 to be working, but they really don't want to work it. They're kind of tired. They're not sure about what they're doing. They're uncertain. but they want their money to be doing more than the 1% that they're making in the certificate of depression down at the local bank. Okay? Now your IRA is the seconding investor. You've got a little bit of money. You got $3,000 in your IRA. You've got connections to both the property owner investor who's got the great screaming deal that needs the funding, as well as the civilian. And you've got knowledge to make sure things are going to get done right. You know it's a deal. You've been around the block a couple of times. You know that if I buy this thing for $100 all in and it gets fixed up right by the contractor who's got a good reputation, this thing will sell all day long for $145. And you know it's a good deal. So you're going to kind of put this thing together. All right? So you're going to pull it all together. And now I'm going to give you a specific example of a deal that I did the week between Christmas and New Year's. Investor buddy of mine calls me up and says, Jeff, I got this great screaming deal. I can buy this condominium at like an HOA auction or the equivalent in Chicago, Illinois for $30,000. Only problem is, I don't have 30 grand, but it's such a great screaming deal because I know that when I get it and get it fixed up and I get it rented, I can afford to pay you $3,000 a month for 12 months to pay you back. So at this point in time, I was a little frustrated because there was sitting as cash inside of my mom's equity trust Roth IRA, $315. $315 in cash inside of her account that wasn't working. And I was a little annoyed because it wasn't working. So I put the $300 to work, wrapping around $27,900 or $29,700 that another investor tossed into the deal. And so the borrower borrowed $30,000, agreeing right up front he's going to pay back $36,000 over a year, because this is a screaming deal for him. Because he knew that once he got me paid off, he was going to take and keep banking $3,500 a month in rent every month thereafter. So first year, he was going to live on $500 off that deal. So he was happy. Okay? So we ran this thing. So the guy put up $29,700, friend of mine out of Tampa, Florida. He put up $29,700. And he was pretty happy with his 34.87% rate of return. Wouldn't you be? Right? Pretty good, right? But my mom's Roth IRA only made a 373.36 rate of return. I tried. Mom, I tried. So what we did is, not only did we get back the 10 payments of $100, but then we rode along a little longer with the equity participation or profit participation. Ultimately, when this deal finally was done, I took the $300 from my mom's Roth IRA and I turned it to $3,000. $3,000 doesn't sound like a lot of money, right? Until I roll it into the next deal, which we're chugging along quite nicely. But $300 to $3,000 in 2 years' time is still a pretty good rate of return, okay? But how did I do it? I made sure that my mom's money benefited by wrapping around the other bigger chunk of money. Now, was every deal that I did like that a home run like that with those kind of numbers? No. So let's talk about a couple more that I did. Okay? So, but I got a graph because some of you are right brain and some of you are left brain. Okay? I can't remember. I think I'm all left brain. Okay? But anyhow. So here's a graph. So we've got the 29.7 being wrapped by the 300. Okay? So the first, or the underlying 29.7 and the 300. We'll get into the specifics of this in a little bit. So here's the second deal I did. Same borrower. He got a little more savvy. Maybe it wasn't quite as good of a deal. He needed 30 grand, pay back 36,000 over 12 months, so he's willing to pay a 35% rate of return on his money. By the way, this borrower is not only an attorney, he's also a commercial real estate broker. So he knows what he's doing. Okay? So I took 28 grand from somebody else, and I took $2,000 from a small Roth IRA, and I wrapped the two around the 28. So the 28,000 it made a 28.43% rate of return on this particular deal. Is that okay? What's the S&P index done this last 12 months? I mean, year after year after year, it chugs along. If you track it over a long period of time, it chugs along at about 12%, 11, 12%, okay? If you're prepared to ride the roller coaster, it kind of levels out at 11 or 12. So I think 28.43 is a little bit better than that. Now with the $2,000 wrapping the 28, we got back 12 payments of $292 a month for only a 118.72% rate of return. I didn't do quite as good, but I think I did okay. Now somebody's going to say to me, well, Jeff, what about UBIT? There is no UBIT because the $2,000 did not borrow $28,000 to relend it. Let me say that again. The $2,000 IRA did not borrow the $28,000 to relend it. No, there were two notes because there were two loans, one loan wrapping the other one. Okay? Well, what about usury? Well, there could have been a usury problem if I had been in anywhere other than Chicago, Illinois. But because I'm in Chicago and on a commercial basis, they don't have a usury statute against me. But as I referred to in the earlier session, if that would be a problem, I would make sure that my note had the language in there saying that in the event that this note is determined to calculate in such a way as to trigger usury, then we will just readjust it to where we get just below the legal limit. You know, a little more mumbo jumbo than that, but that's the idea behind it. Okay? And by the way, I cannot quote it off the top of my head, but there is an IRS revenue ruling that says that when one lender wraps another lender's money, it does not trigger UBIT, it does not trigger that problem. So that's somewhere in my archives, but it just came to me. So here's another example for the other half the brain people, the right brain people. Here's a picture, okay? So you get a better idea. I got a better picture coming too, so it gets better. So we've got $2,000 wrapping $28,000. Now, so I'm going to ask this question. How many of you got $2,000 in an IRA? Seriously, you got $2,000 in an IRA. You can do this deal. You can do this deal. I got a client that just called me up. He says, Jeff, I just inherited a Roth IRA. I said, okay, how much is in the account? $250. I said, great, I know what to do. If I take $250 and I use the same strategy that I did with $300, I can take that $250 and I can turn it into $2,500 in 2 years. I can take that $2,500 in 2 years and I can do this to it, and what do I turn it into? And I just keep that ball rolling. Maybe you saw the slides earlier about rinse, repeat, reinvest, and reload. Well, on an inherited IRA, I can't reload. But I can sure keep on rinse, repeat, and reinvest, can't I? Cool. All right, so here we go. Here's one more wrap deal I'm going to walk you through. This deal is still performing and cooking. It's still chugging along. Okay, civilian Ender has $15,000 that she's willing to lend out at 9.5%. Investor has a mobile home he wants to buy. He needs $16,000 to buy the mobile home, move it to his park, put it in, hook it up, put skirting on it, put a deck on it, and so on. He's willing to pay 12% on the money. He's frugal. He only wants to pay 12% on his money. Okay? The wrapping investor has $1,000 in connection to both parties. The $1,000 account holder knows the borrower and knows the lady with the $15,000. Okay? And the lady with $15,000, she wants to make 9.5% on her money. Now, that's only about 9 times more than what the bank's paying. Okay? So if I could pay you 5, 8, 9 times more than what the bank's paying you, would you be interested in hearing about that? That might be a conversation starter. So this deal is structured this way. See how this picture does a better job? We've got 9.5% on the underlying $15,000. And we've got 12% on the total loan of $16,000. So the $16,000 note gets back a payment calculated on a 12% rate of return. Out of that payment received, they then service and pay the $15,000 note at 9.5%. Let me walk you through that. So then you've got your civilian ender for 72 months, which is suspiciously like 6 years, 9.5% interest, $15,000 present value. Their payment is $274.12 a month. But on your $16,000 loan at 12%, your payment is $312.80. So then out of the $312.80, you're paying $274.12 back to the other investor. And $1,000 becomes $2,785 over 6 years, which is only a 42.66% rate of return. Now, I'm going to tell you the number that makes me the happiest on that screen is the 6 years. Because I'm locked in at 42% for 6 years. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I run into a lot of hard money lenders that will only do at 3 points and 15%, and their money's working at best half a year. The other half of the time it's taking a siesta, looking for another deal. So that means they're really only making 1.5 and 7.5. Okay? So here's the sample wording that I put in the notes to make this thing work. Payee. In this particular instance, it's the trustee of one of my IRA-owned trusts. Herein, by acceptance of this note, acknowledges his, her, their duty to the payor, that's the ultimate borrower, to pay any obligation that may be owed, which is evidenced by a note of even date given in favor of CEO House Money Ltd. and Ohio Single Member LLC by blank blank in the original sum of $250,000 plus interest at 12%. So this is language I stole from yet another deal. This is no longer the mobile home deal. This is a bigger deal. Okay? Same principle, same numbers, and so on, okay? But CEO House Money Ltd. is an Ohio Single Member LLC, and they borrowed $250,000 at 12%. And they've got a, so here's that, so the payee, the trustee of my trust, that wrapped the $250 from CEO House Money with another 10 grand, I think it was 10 grand, collects the payments and remits back out. Okay? Let's continue with the wording. Payee, once again the trustee of my trust, specifically agrees that in the event said obligation becomes in default, while the payor is not in default, so while CEO House Money is not in default, under this note herein, then the payor herein shall have the right to pay whatever sum is required to remedy such default, i.e. make good the loan back to the other company, CEO House Money. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, the other lender. That such sum shall be expended, shall be credited against the installments due as they mature hereunder. So what it's a bunch of mumbo jumbo that says that if the wrapping lender doesn't make the payments to the underlying lender, the borrower can do it and offset against the wrapping lender's debt. Do you want me to go through that one again? Yes. So if I'm the wrapping lender and I'm collecting the payment and I'm not making the underlying payment, I'm in default, I'm a no-no. That means the borrower, when they realize that, can say, okay, well, I'll catch up what the underlying lender should have been paid, and what I have to give them to do that, I can then withhold from the money I owe you in the future. So they're not out any additional money. Me being naughty doesn't, I just get punished. Okay? So let me wrap this up because then I want to do questions. And then payee acknowledges their duty to take all necessary actions presenting foreclosure on the several parcels, securing these notes on even date, blah, 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 blah. So the payee, in response for doing this, has some obligations to, not let anything go wrong. Make sure the payments are made on the underlying debt. All right? So you can make wraps work for you. I struggled with understanding the concept. For years I struggled with it. And then finally somebody explained it to me in a way that I really got it. And if you want to know more about it, you can find the course that Dorsey offers at assets101.com. It's available there. And you can make wraps work for you. And finally, this 24-year-old young lady, or 25-year-old young lady, beat it into this old lawyer's head as to how to do it. And then I got it, and I did it, and I keep doing it. And so those are some of the things I like doing on a rinse and repeat basis. So with that being said, 15 minutes to go, questions and wrap up. Yes, ma'am.
Everything that you've shown was for a Roth IRA. How about a traditional IRA? Could it be the same?
Everything that I have shown is for a Roth IRA because I love Roth IRAs. But you could do the exact same thing with a traditional IRA, with an HSA, with a CISA, with a 401k. Whatever account Equity Trust lets you have, you could do it.
What's a CISA?
Covered Education Savings Account. Yes, sir, all the way in the back against the wall.
I have 2 questions.
Pick one.
All right. For the non-disqualified, uninterested party from the prior conversation, do they and or your counsel need to be in the same state that your transaction?
Do they need to be in the same state? Does the manager of your LLC or does the trustee of your trust, who's a disinterested, non-disqualified third party, need to be in the same state? They don't need to be, but it's best if they are. You got to make sure that the LLC is registered to do business in the state where they're doing the deal. That's one thing trusts don't have to do. Okay? So now we get to do another question. Yes, sir? Blue shirt.
Would there be a tie between a foreign and domestic transaction between states?
I'm sorry?
Would that be tied to a foreign and domestic transaction between states?
Would that be tied to between a foreign and domestic transaction between states? I don't know if I understand your question.
I'm piggybacking off on the previous question.
I understand. So a foreign entity in that situation is an LLC that was founded in Ohio but now doing business in Pennsylvania. It would have to get registered as a foreign entity to do business in that state. Yes. Did I answer your question? Okay. Do we have another lady that's got a question? Then we're going to come back over here. Yes, ma'am.
So on the last example, the civilian signed a $16,000 note at 12%.
No. No, the civilian didn't sign anything. The civilian lent money. They don't have to sign it to lend it. Okay. So the borrower signed a note for $16,000 at 12%. They're the investor at the other end of the picture. They're the investor. They signed 2 notes. They signed 2 notes. One for $16,000 at 12%, payable to my trustee of my IRA trust. They sign a second note for $15,000 at 9.5%, payable to the ender investor who's just putting their money to work and doesn't know anything else.
They don't feel like they're borrowing or obligated to pay $31,000?
They feel like that until I walk them to the note or their counsel walks them to the note where they look at it and say, oh, when I make a payment on the 16, that money has to go used to make the payment on the 15. Oh, I see now. I make one payment on this note and it pays the other one that's underneath it. Trickle down.
So that is the end person signs both those notes, and that's why you...
The borrower signs both notes.
The borrower signs both notes, that's why you is not involved.
Correct.
But the middle person signed the note, and that's...
Yes.
That would be...
Yes.
Okay.
You've exhausted all your questions, but you were great questions. Had a guy back over here. You got the glasses on your head, and then we're going to go to the guy behind you, and then we're going over here.
Does an IRA owner make a mistake if he loans the money directly out of his IRA as opposed to setting up an LLC or a trust?
Does he make a mistake if he... No, absolutely not. He does not make a mistake. Because if you do, whether you do it either way, on these 10 for 12s, you can do it either way. And that's why I wanted to show you 10 for 12s, because you're doing one deal for a year. It's one simple deal, one DOI, 3 pieces of supporting documentation, boom, you're done, your IRA makes the loan. Payments can come back, either straight to the custodian, or they can come to you and you can put the coupon with it and send it on, whichever way you want to go. Great question. Two guys behind you. Yes, sir.
On the wrap, the underlying wrap, does it have to be another IRA account?
Nope. Could be anything. Could be non-IRA money, could be IRA money, doesn't matter. Then we had, yes sir, you right there, no glasses on. You just pulled your hand down. Yes, you.
All right. Do you recommend that people reuse the same paperwork, or are they getting an attorney to draw this up? It seems like
when you do rinse and repeat, you've got a template.
So
you've got a baseline Word doc template. And then you can go in and type in what you need and then save as. And you've kept your baseline template document to keep working from.
So then, do you take that document and personal guarantee, just you personally, would you go get it recorded in the county where the transactions take place? Or?
I would not necessarily record the assignment of rents. The personal guarantee is not recorded, but the deed of trust or the mortgage is. And if I know I'm going to record the mortgage or the deed of trust, I might just put the assignment of rents right in it, so I get it recorded too. Okay? It all depends on what I'm doing here.
But once you get your template down, you feel comfortable.
I feel comfortable, and then but I'll tell you, then it's up to you to decide. I've got clients that once they get the template, they just never bother me again. And then I get clients that once they get the template, they'll create their own and they'll send it back going, hey, take 5 minutes, read this, make sure I didn't screw it up. Yeah. And I got to tell you, with Word today, if I gave them the template and they've done their edits to it, I can slap them up in a side-by-side comparison, and in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I can see what they've done and whether they've screwed something up or didn't make all the edits. Okay? You, sir, with the glasses on, you had a question, and then we're going to try and get up here to this lady.
Are you recording both wraps?
Am I recording both wraps? I may have 2 mortgages because I have 2 notes, and then I would record both mortgages. But I will not be recording the notes. Notes do not get recorded, mortgages or deeds of trust do. But yes.
So that doesn't put the lien, the $15,000 and $16,000 lien in title on that property?
They're not on title, they're as liens. When I record the mortgage, they're recorded as liens, not as the owners.
Yeah, but it's a $31,000 lien instead of...
Oh, you gotta read the paperwork, dude. Yes, great question, because so many people at title companies don't read the stuff. And they don't recognize that, oh, it references a wrap note. Yeah, but you gotta read the stuff that gets recorded. Love that question. Ma'am, I've already hit you, so I gotta go all the way in the back, yes. I'm trying to get ladies more than guys because...
You talked about prohibited transactions within families and structuring something like this with a grandparent, parent, and child with CISA.
Right.
Can you give me some clues so I don't...
Sure. Let me give you an illustration. When we've got multiple generations with all having IRA accounts, 401ks, CISAs, whatever, HSAs, all that stuff, we want all the family members, their IRAs, to kind of like stand around the same swimming pool, and they all hold hands, they sing Kumbaya, and they all jump in at the same time, which means that the checks from all of those accounts that the custodians have cut, payable to the trustee or payable to the manager of the entity, get deposited the same day in the operating account for that newly formed entity. They all fund it in at the same time, and they all ride the waves together. And when money comes out of the account or comes out of the LLC or the trust going back up to the motherships, it all comes out in the same proportion. Okay? Great question. Yes, sir.
Earlier when you talked about that same thing, when you had 2 people making contributions,
yes,
and more money was needed for the deal,
you
said that if they made a yearly contribution, nope, they couldn't.
I don't want them to do that. I want them to go, because here's what happens. When I have, each IRA is its own person in the eyes of the IRS, its own legal entity in the eyes of the IRS. And so when 2 IRAs form into an entity, they become disqualified as to further contributions into that entity. as if they were member owners or beneficiary interest owners.
Is there a rationale why they're disqualified?
Yeah. It's because just like you're disqualified from your IRA because it's a separate thing. You can't do things to benefit your IRA. You can't keep doing it. And so if you go back and read the rationale behind the Swanson decision, and then my brain just cranked because there's another one that came out in the last year that says that the funding, when the funding occurs is when the LLC or trust is then owned, and that's when it becomes disqualified. Okay? This is an area that I play it safe. There's no court case out there that says I'm right or wrong. I just play it safe. Okay? Now, if I have an LLC or a trust that's only owned by one IRA, then I can reload that one. I can reload that one. Okay? So I think that one through for a second and play with it. All right, I want to get you, sir, and then I've got the guy in the yellow in the back, and I think we're out of time then. Yes, sir.
On the wrap, does the civilian have to be a disqualified person?
Yes. Yes. Does the on the wrap, if your IRA is wrapping, does the civilian or other lender have to be disqualified? Yes. You can't use your IRA to wrap your own money or your wife's own money. You could use your IRA to wrap your brother's money. You following me? So when I do these wraps, I either use my trust and I wrap somebody else's money that I don't have anything else going on with, or I wrap another IRA that I'm not disqualified from, okay? Because I've got enough relationships that I get away with that. Yes, ma'am? Upon funding, it comes into existence.
Yeah, so now it's no longer.
Yes.
Now it's like a baby.
It's conceived. Yes, got it. Anyhow, pardon me? Then you pick who it is. Okay.
So once those two IRAs that jumped into the pools only put on.
Yeah.
They jumped in, and now that they're disqualified to each other, this is a great last question, but is that to say then that they can't form any other entities together now that they're disqualified? Once they jump into the pool together, they can never jump into any other pools together again?
Until they get out of that pool.
Oh, okay. And then they're disqualified.
Until they drain that pool and get out. Okay. Then they could jump back in again.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay? Yeah. Great question. And with that, jumping into pools, draining it, and getting back in again, we end. Thank you so much.